It's Friday, everyone, June 6th. Let's get to your top stories today here in BC. Well, we are learning more details about the suspect behind a frightening incident at the Pacific Coliseum last night. Vancouver police say just after 8 o'clock, a 30-year-old man allegedly crashed a vehicle into the front entrance. It happened while a Cirque du Soleil show was taking place inside. Police believe the driver was experiencing a significant mental health crisis at the time.
He was speaking and acting erratically, specifically having religious delusions, talking about Satan, talking about God, saying other things that made it very apparent that he was experiencing a mental health crisis. And he was clearly acting in a way that placed himself and members of the public in immediate danger.
Addison says the man does not have a criminal record and is being held in hospital under the Mental Health Act. Police say they were told the man was acting erratically for a number of days before this. They have not identified the suspect's name as he has not been charged. And this comes weeks after the tragedy at the Lapu Lapu Day Festival in Vancouver, too. Vancouver police also say that they're adding more safety cameras in the downtown east side after numerous violent incidents targeting the community and police. 8 safety cameras have been installed, 4 at Main and 4 at Corral and Hastings.
We do believe it will have an impact on public safety in the downtown east side and improve safety for people who are living and working in the area, including our own officers. As part of this process, we've had discussions with community leaders, advocates in the downtown east side, business associations, BIAs. We've spoken to our own Indigenous Advisory Committee.
Police say the area represents just 3% of the city's population, but accounts for 30% of all violent crime in Vancouver. Police say they will record public spaces only. They won't record audio or be used with facial recognition, AI, or traffic enforcement. And BC Wildfire and the PC River Regional District have provided an update on the Kiskatona River wildfire, where about 70 people in the Kelly Lake area are under evacuation order. Officials say crews worked overnight to build a guard adjacent to the north end of the community to try and protect it. They also say extreme fire behavior is expected over the weekend because of the weather.
As we progress through the day and through the weekend, temperatures are expected to rise. Humidity will decrease and winds will just become stronger. So a number of challenging days ahead of us and certainly more aggressive fire behavior, and the potential is there for more significant growth.
Meanwhile, the Northern Rockies Regional Municipality has issued an evacuation order and alert for the Summit Lake and Tetsa River area. So the order has been issued for the Tetsa River area between the Summit Lake campground and the Steamboat Mountain Brake Check along the Alaska Highway. That again is due to the Summit Lake wildfire. This excludes the Alaska Highway corridor right now. The evacuation alert is for the area between the Steamboat Mountain Brake Check to and including the Muskwa River boat launch. Emergency Info BC says residents must be ready to leave at a moment's notice. That's what we have for you so far. You're watching CBC News BC. Coming up next is BC Today.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. Up first, we'll hear the latest from Vancouver police about a car being driven into the Pacific Coliseum's entrance last night. And southern BC is facing its first stretch of hot weather, with the north already dealing with wildfire. How can we best adapt to hotter summers? Plus, it is movie season now, and in classic movie fashion, we are pitting blockbusters against indie films. So let us know, which one do you prefer to watch at the theater? I'm Michelle Elliott. Welcome to BC Today. First, we go to Vancouver Police Headquarters. This morning, the VPD held a press conference to discuss cameras going into the downtown east side. But they also took questions on a frightening incident last night at the Pacific Coliseum. Just after 8 o'clock, police say a man crashed a vehicle into the front entrance. It happened while a Cirque du Soleil show was taking place inside. There has been one arrest and no serious injuries. CBC's Jessica Cheung is at VPD headquarters right now. Hi, Jess. Can you tell us more about what happened last night?
Yeah, Michelle. So we were actually at the scene earlier this morning. We saw staff boarding up some damage at the entrance of the arena. We saw scuff marks on one of the pillars where the car allegedly hit the building. That's all happened last night, as you said, just before 8 p.m. during a Cirque du Soleil show. Now, police say there were thousands of people inside and outside the venue at the time. We actually heard from someone who attended the show saying that this incident happened during an intermission. No one was injured, no one was killed during this incident, which police say is pretty much a miracle. Now, after the incident, arena security detained the driver, a 30-year-old man, until police came and took him into custody and apprehended him under the Mental Health Act, Michelle.
And so this morning, as they held this press conference, what more did police have to say?
Yeah, so Sergeant Steve Addison with Vancouver Police addressed the incident this morning, gave more information about the individual involved. Now, he said when officers got on scene, it was very clear that this man was having a severe mental health crisis. He said he was speaking and acting erratically, having religious delusions, talking about Satan and God. Now, Addison also noted that police got a report earlier in the evening on an individual acting erratically at a church. Now, they believe that the man was with people of the community at the church. He left the church. Police also heard that witnesses saw this person circling the arena in the car prior to the incident. And the next time that police interacted with this individual was after he allegedly crashed into the arena. Now, as I said earlier, the man was apprehended under the Mental Health Act. Addison says that he has since been certified at the hospital under the act. Now, he has not been charged with a criminal offense as of yet, and so police aren't releasing the identity of this individual. But what they will say is that this individual doesn't have a criminal record that they know of and no history with the VPD in terms of crime or mental health.
Now, Jess, it has been just over a month since the tragedy at the Lapu Lapu Festival. And so did police this morning speak to any anxiety people may have about public events?
Yeah, they did. Addison addressed that fact that this most recent incident piles on to the already heightened anxieties that people are feeling after the Lapu Lapu Day festival tragedy, especially with large crowd events. And this upcoming weekend, it's kind of the unofficial kickoff of these summer festivals that draw out these large crowds. We have Italian Days on Commercial Drive happening on Sunday, a BC Lions game with a subsequent kind of street festival on Saturday. And so to address this, Addison says that, the department is going to be deploying 300 additional officers throughout the weekend. They're also going to be putting up these 700-pound steel barriers that are actually designed to stop vehicles from going into or ramming into large crowds. And this is also provide kind of some comfort to people who want to attend these events, to deter crime with the amount of police presence that's going to be there, and to respond quickly if anything were to happen. Michelle.
Jess, thanks so much. That's CBC reporter Jessica Cheung live from Vancouver Police Department headquarters. It is now 12:10. You're with BC Today. Well, Prime Minister Mark Carney has issued an invite to Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi to the upcoming G7 summit in Alberta. It will be Modi's first visit to Canada since the RCMP linked India to the June 2023 killing of Sikh leader Hardeep Singh Nijjar in Surrey. Mounties accused the Indian government of playing a role in, quote, widespread violence in Canada with acts of murder, extortion, and coercion. Now, in a press conference today, Carney said India has a place at the table for world economic discussions at the summit.
India, the fifth largest economy in the world, effectively the most populous country in the world, central to a number of those supply chains, at the heart of a number of those supply chains, so it makes sense. And in addition, bilaterally, we have now agreed, importantly, to continued law enforcement dialogue. So there's been some progress on that. It recognizes issues of accountability. I extended the invitation to Prime Minister Modi in that context, and he has accepted.
Now, the Prime Minister's office says the two leaders spoke today about, quote, the long-standing relationship between Canada and India. In a message on X, Modi says he is looking forward to the meeting. It is 12:13 here on BC Today. I'm Michelle Elliott. Thanks for being with us. Well, warnings now about preparing for the summer heat. One coming from the BC Centre for Disease Control, another from Environment Canada's special weather statement saying an early season heat event is going to hit parts of southern BC. And the Centre for Disease Control says the first high temperatures of the season can lead to some people overheating because they are not yet accustomed to the warmer weather. And as we're watching for the heat coming to the southern part of the province, of course, in the north, there have already been concerns around wildfires and some evacuations. In the last hour, the Peace River Regional District and BC Wildfire Service gave an update. There is a new evacuation alert issued in the Northern Rockies Regional Municipality for the Summit Lake and Tetsa River area due to wildfire. And they say that they are expecting wildfire activity because of those hot and dry conditions in the north over the coming days. Okay, we want to hear from you. How can we prepare for hotter summers? How can we adapt to hotter summers? You can call us 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733, or hit pound 690 on your cell phone. You can also email bctoday@cbc.ca. Joining me now is Dr. Michael Schwandt, Medical Health Officer at Vancouver Coastal Health. Good afternoon, Dr. Schwandt. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me on, Michelle.
Does this seem early to you?
Well, certainly. This is very early summer for an event of the type that we're looking at. So we see this special weather statement from Environment Canada and some related messaging from the BC Centre for Disease Control and other health authorities, mostly noting that increased risk that we see with higher temperatures can be more so still when we see these temperatures early in the summer. We do become acclimatized fairly quickly to elevated heat over the course of weeks, but early in the season, our bodies aren't prepared in the same way that they will be. And frankly, some of our practices might not be because it's been a while since we've needed to look to air conditioning or shades or some of these other measures to try to stay cool.
Right. So what are the things we should be keeping in mind then heading into the weekend?
Well, really thinking that in terms of health impacts, most of the worst impacts that we've seen over the years in BC have been indoors and in the home. So looking at ways that we can keep the home environment cool, even if it's just a single space like the area that we sleep in, that can be very helpful. So if we have air conditioning, getting that activated, if it's a portable air conditioner, dusting that off would be a good time to consider that now. And then taking some of the other measures that we can. So using the shades or curtains to cool the space, keeping the sun out during the day, and thinking ahead to if that's not enough within the home, cool areas in our communities we can go to, libraries, community centers, even cooler outdoor spaces can sometimes be safer than the high indoor temperatures, especially for people at very high risk.
And Dr. Schwandt, what are your thoughts on, first, let's give a nod to what's happening in the north, right? Again, they're looking at severe, serious weather and fire conditions. It's going to be a real challenge over the coming days. And so they're saying residents should take seriously and heed evacuation alerts and evacuation orders. What about health risks from wildfires? I believe the smoke coming from the northeast wildfires are traveling further east. And if you look at the fires over in the prairie provinces, for example, but what are some of the ongoing, lingering health concerns that you have, given that we repeatedly see wildfires every year now?
Absolutely. In addition to some of those potentially devastating effects on communities, we know that the smoke from wildfires can have acute effects in the very short term, and also longer term chronic effects as well that we're learning more and more about in the science. So in the shorter run, people with asthma or chronic obstructive pulmonary disease can experience exacerbations, worsenings of those conditions. We do see as well longer term health impacts to the heart and lungs because of this risk of inflammation that can really be system-wide. So it's not just our breathing that's impacted. And we see science that more and more is finding that there can be risks to, for example, pregnancies, the developing fetus, and even the effects on brain health over the longer term from repeated exposures. So we're worried both about that acute short term and that longer range health effects.
What would be your advice for mitigating the effects of those of smoke?
Well, much as we recommend for periods of high heat, getting into cooler spaces, thinking of cool and clean air is really the first thing that we'd recommend. So if it's possible to create that in the home, if we have, for example, portable air filters or inbuilt air filtration in the home, that can be very helpful. As well as that, there's more and more scientific findings that even home constructed air cleaners can actually be almost as effective or as effective as some of the commercial products. And the BC Centre for Disease Control has good guidance around how to create those. However, not every home is equipped with the with that sort of air filtration, and so seeking out other spaces can be helpful. Spending some time in areas that do have a high level of air filtration can be important. And for the most part, looking at public buildings that have air conditioning often are going to, right along with that, have good air filtration in place. And then finally, building that more and more into our buildings over time as an adaptation to these events that we're experiencing more and more in BC will be important.
Right. Yeah, that's going to be key, that adaptation. And let's talk about that a little bit more. My guest is Dr. Michael Schwandt, Medical Health Officer at Vancouver Coastal Health. And as an early stretch of hot weather comes to the southern part of the province, and of course the north, looking at hot and dry conditions already, asking you on the open line, what can we do to adapt to hotter summers? It seems like coming earlier as well. Our number is 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. And you can hit pound 690 or email bctoday@cbc.ca. Michael is calling us from Vancouver. Hi, Michael. Yeah, what are your thoughts about adapting and preparing for hotter summers?
Michelle, when you go to a lot of very hot places, you'll see ceiling fans in the rooms. It's not something that we have commonly done in Vancouver, but I think as an alternative to air conditioning, which can be expensive, just replacing the light fixture with a ceiling fan with a built-in light fixture can be an excellent way, especially in a bedroom, to make that room a bit more tolerable in the heat.
Yes, Michael. Is this Michael Geller?
It is.
Yes. Hi, Michael. Of course, well-known architect planner in Vancouver. So this is something you know about from a personal and sort of professional perspective then, Michael.
That's right. And a number of the homes that I built in West Vancouver, I didn't want to incur the cost of air conditioning, but I did put ceiling fans in many of the rooms, and especially the bedrooms. And I know that the people who bought those homes appreciated them.
Yeah. Do you think that should be something that becomes not just common, but perhaps mandatory in some way, Michael?
Well, I'll leave that to government officials to tell us all the unintended consequences of doing that. There's no doubt that it is preferable when you have a slightly higher ceiling, but it's an idea. I mean, the city has, in fact, suggested air conditioning should be mandatory, and I must say I question that. given all of the other concerns we have about energy consumption and so forth. But ceiling fans, they do work. It's just something people don't think about.
Yeah, fair enough. Michael, thanks so much for calling us.
My pleasure.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
good to have you. Have a great weekend. That's Michael Geller, in fact, calling us from Vancouver. And so, yeah, ceiling fans. I actually used to live somewhere where we had ceiling fans, and it was very, very helpful. But Dr. Schwandt, as we see, Vancouver, yes, talking about new builds and air conditioning, and the BC government providing. They used to provide rebates more generally when it comes to heat pumps, providing portable air conditioners for people who can't afford them. Are these things? What do you make of what governments are doing to try and provide or make things more equitable for people when it comes to staying cool?
Yeah, we've seen a number of very positive directions on that front. As we found in British Columbia, the historical housing that's been created is just not resilient to the climate change that we're experiencing. So, for example, to very high heat, to wildfire smoke. And so measures like that are going to be very important. And we know that it's going to be important to make sure that people in all types of housing and with a variety of different economic and material circumstances have access to these sort of safe, cool, and clean air indoor spaces that we recommend from a public health perspective. So when we see measures in place to help with funding for those, or to even require that to shape those indoor environments through policy from a public health perspective, that is very helpful.
Let's take another call now. Peter in Valemount. Hi, welcome.
Hello, Michelle. How are you today?
I am just fine. Thanks for calling in. And what are your thoughts about preparing for increasingly hotter summers?
Well, as you know, it's not just increasingly hotter summers, but lower income and people that are probably least able to escape the poor air quality do need air conditioners. Now, Valemount was host to triple its population last summer, the fire evacuees from Jasper, and in fact, a wildfire came within 4 kilometers of our town. We need the Prime Minister, who's advocating for building, to make financial plans available or subsidies available for seniors and lower income people in the north and areas where I live, where we actually endure 2 to 3 weeks of Okanagan type weather, and that's hot.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking that what we need is the Prime Minister. I think we've got we have the solutions right in front of us. Excess energy when we don't need it can go down to the United States, or it can go to Alberta, can go to running other air conditioning systems on a rotational basis when and where needed. We have some solar installations already happening on rooftops in Valemount here, but we could use a lot more, and I'm sure across the province.
Yeah, really good to hear from you. I'm so glad to hear from the interior on this. Thank you so much for the call. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
That's Peter calling us from Valemount. Now, he talked about getting Okanagan-type weather, and Kelowna is actually doing something interesting when it comes to tackling extreme heat and health effects in different ways. They are encouraging people to plant more trees to build out that tree canopy. And joining me now is Jen Miles, who's a planner at the City of Kelowna. Good afternoon. Thanks for being with us.
Sure thing. Thanks for having me.
How many more trees do you need to plant in Kelowna?
Well, we had a really great study done over the past couple of years, and they did it sort of by percentage of canopy cover, because that's the fastest way that we can count our trees, really. So right now, in some parts of our community, we only have about 12% tree canopy, and we want to move towards upwards of 20% and 25% in some parts of our community, just depending on where it most makes sense.
Yeah, when I think of Kelowna, I think of rolling hills for sure. Not so much an extensive tree canopy. And so what difference do you hope that will make then?
Oh, it's hugely important. We have seen through the great research that's come out of places like UBC showing the urban heat island effect and how hot it gets in our paved areas.
Yeah.
And of course, during the heat dome in 2021, we sadly had deaths in our community relating to that. So we understand that it's hugely impactful to people's health, and needing to cool down overnight is also hugely important. So we're really trying to focus getting more trees in our urban core, which it has the lower tree canopy, and we recognize the value of those trees because it's tough in the Okanagan because people have experienced wildfires and they're scared. And
Absolutely.
oftentimes people will blame the trees around wildfires as being a risk to them and their homes. But we're seeing more and more actual proof that trees that are broad-leafed deciduous trees have actually helped protect homes in some of the wildfires in Los Angeles and here in Kelowna as well. So we really want to encourage folks to not be afraid of trees, to pick the right ones and plant them in the right places, and they can actually help protect you. And then they also cool our urban core and help reduce those temperatures that then lead to the higher fire risk here.
That's really interesting, right? Because there's so much messaging around being fire smart and ensuring that you clear the brush from around your home, and to have it be recommended that you should plant trees. I can see how people would be apprehensive of that. But you're saying it's the type of tree that is planted that would make a difference and that would actually protect against the spread of wildfire. So what needs to be done right now then? How does this program work exactly?
Well, Fire Smart BC has been great about looking at the types of plants that are more fire smart. And in a lot of nurseries, you can start to see the little tags that say, I'm a fire smart plant. So those are a great option for folks looking at changing up their yard and doing that fire smart work to clean up their properties. And in general, there's basically 10 meters from your house or from structures that Fire Smart recommends you do really a deep dive into clearing and making sure that there's no dry brush or any like wood piles or things that are higher flammability risk. Once you get through all of that and look at planting some nice deciduous plants with the broad green leaves that hold water, those are actually considered to help be a fire break in some ways and have found to be protective to houses. I've seen pictures of properties with bright green landscaping, and all around them the landscape is charred from a fire moving through. So it's shown that being fire smart and making those landscape choices actually can make a huge difference. And then you have that added long-term benefit beyond those moments of fire, of cooling structures, cooling homes, because we've seen how much lower air conditioning costs can be when you have a good shade tree in your yard.
Really good to hear from you. It's an interesting project that you've undertaken. Thanks so much for your time.
Of course.
Jen Miles, a planner at the City of Kelowna, and asking you about how we can better prepare for hotter weathers. Christian is joining us now from Campbell River. Hi, Christian. How hot does it get necessarily in Campbell River?
Not as hot as it can get in the Okanagan.
In Kelowna, yeah.
But we've had weather around 35 when we had the heat dome, and it was,
yes,
and the heat dome is probably one of those incredible experiences that probably nobody wants to repeat. But it will happen again.
Yeah,
I expect. So I was going to suggest that one of the things that we need to look at is not just thinking about air conditioning. And I grew up in Australia where before air conditioning actually occurred, high ceilings, breezeways, shading verandas were the norm of building housing. And we don't have that now. So houses get hot because the sun shines on the sidewalls. There's very little airflow, which actually helps cool people.
Yeah. And
of course, air conditioning is expensive, and not everybody can afford it or has access to it.
Absolutely. Yeah, Christian, thank you very much. Some lessons perhaps that can be learned from other jurisdictions. Good to hear from you in Campbell River. And Dr. Schwandt, Dr. Michael Schwandt is with me, medical health officer with Vancouver Coastal Health. You know, Christian brought up the heat dome there that really affected virtually every part of the province. What are the lessons that can be learned from that deadly heat dome?
Very important event to think about and to look at some of the learnings that we have from that. I mean, first of all, one of the biggest risks from the BC heat dome was that day on day and importantly, night after night exposure to high heat. So as Christian had mentioned, we really need housing that's able to cool off, and we're not relying only on overnight low temperatures, because when we have a period of very high heat like the heat dome, we just weren't able to cool off in the night. So we saw the temperatures just went up and up and up.
Right.
So looking at the underlying infrastructure of our housing and how that can be cooler to begin with is really important. And that could be in the form of active cooling, so things like air conditioning or heat pumps. And then, as a couple of callers have mentioned, other measures that we can take as well. Some more passive measures that are built right into the design of homes and also our neighborhoods. The tree planting, the greener urban neighborhoods that were described earlier are all extremely important. It can help to create cooler indoor spaces. And again, the home is really where we're seeing most of that risk. And then finally, understanding who among our communities are at most risk.
Yeah.
During the heat dome, we did see that older adults, people with pre-existing conditions were at higher risk, people who are socially isolated. So taking the time as individuals and as community to reach out to those folks and provide assistance where necessary. And again, societally, to make sure that their risk is lower in the first place is very important.
Yeah, it'd be a good time to read this email from Randy, who writes, keep yourself cool and hydrated and check on those around you. Yeah, certainly something to keep in mind as we head into this weekend and the coming months. Dr. Schwandt, all very important information. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Michelle.
Dr. Michael Schwandt is a medical health officer at Vancouver Coastal Health. It's 12:33 now. You're with BC Today. And coming up in our next half hour, you may want to cool off at a movie theater, perhaps. And there are lots of movies coming out to try and sway you, try and draw you into those movie theater seats. We're going to talk about that and actually ask you if you prefer, during the summer, the blockbuster or the indie film. So I want to hear from you coming up. That conversation right after the CBC News Update. And here's Rob Zimmerman.
Good afternoon. The Supreme Court of Canada says a BC woman who pleaded guilty to criminal negligence in the death of a toddler in Cranbrook more than a decade ago should be acquitted. Tammy Bouvet was charged with second-degree murder after a baby drowned in a bathtub while she was babysitting. She pleaded guilty to the lesser charge. 2 years ago, the BC Court of Appeal called the case a miscarriage of justice because the Crown failed to disclose key evidence. Vancouver police have set up more surveillance cameras in the downtown east side. 4 elevated cameras have been installed at Main and Hastings and 4 more at Carroll and Hastings. The VPD says it has consulted with neighborhood activists, business leaders, housing providers, and other stakeholders. And Vancouver Mayor Ken Sim says he is incredibly grateful no one was injured when a man rammed a vehicle into the Pacific Coliseum during a Cirque du Soleil show last night. Police say the 30-year-old man was arrested under the Mental Health Act, and the crash does not appear to be an act of terrorism. And now the forecast on the north coast, clearing this afternoon with a high of 11, highs up to 20 with local smoke and sunshine in the Peace. In the central interior, including Prince George, clearing with a high of 21. Highs around 27 with a mix of sun and cloud in the Kootenays. In the southern interior, including Kelowna, sunshine this afternoon with highs close to 30. And for Metro Vancouver, Greater Victoria, and the Fraser Valley, mainly sunny this afternoon with highs from 17 to 25 inland. That's your CBC News Update from Vancouver.
Rob, thank you. A lot of sports. Sports is sporting this weekend, right? We got Game 2, NHL playoffs tonight. Mm-hmm. I watched the NBA Finals Game 1
Yeah, what a finish. Crazy.
Wasn't that, though? Oh, my goodness. 0.3 seconds left?
Yes.
Oh, my gosh. And he got it in. Halliburton for the Indiana Pacers. So watching that, because there are Canadians involved, Canadian players. And if you're a Raptors fan, of course. And then the BC Lions tomorrow.
And the Whitecaps on Sunday, I believe.
Whitecaps on Sunday. So
wow.
Sports fans are going to be busy.
They are.
Yeah. I'm excited.
And then the movies.
And then the movies. We're going to do movies as well, but we should probably talk sports sometime soon. Rob, thank you. Enjoy your weekend, okay?
Thank you. Yeah, you too.
Rob Zimmerman in the CBC Vancouver newsroom. And yes, let's take a look at what's coming up this afternoon on the Coast.
Good afternoon, Michelle. It's Amy Bell sitting in once again for Gloria Makarenko here on the Coast. And coming up on our show, it is grad season, and that, of course, includes grads from musical schools. Sarah McLaughlin will be joining us with one of the grads from her own school to talk about what's next for her student. And also, Vancouver getting its very own professional women's hockey team, and they have signed a star player, and she's going to come on and talk to us. That it would be, of course, Sarah Nurse, who helped Canada win gold at the Beijing Olympics. So we'll find out what's ahead for this brand new season. On the Coast is starting at 3 o'clock. Hope you can join us.
That is exciting too. Lots going on in sports for sure. And Sarah McLaughlin, what a great interview. I have met her and interviewed her, and she was just lovely and wonderful. That's going to be fascinating this afternoon on the Coast at 3 o'clock. $12:36 now. You're with BC Today on this Friday afternoon. And yes, break out the popcorn. We are heading into movie season. And yeah, some of the big movies out there right now, the John Wick spinoff, Ballerina, Wes Anderson's, I'm going to say quirky new movie, The Phoenician Scheme. Just a wild guess, just throwing it out there. It's going to be quirky. The family-friendly Lilo and Stitch live-action remake. And then you have your Jurassic Parks, your Marvels, and your Mission Impossibles too. Okay, so which one are you? Are you a blockbuster booster or an indie film enthusiast? What are the movies that get you to your local theaters in the summertime? Want to hear from you. 1-800-825-5950. 604-669-3733, or you can hit pound 690 on your cell phone. Love to hear from you on email as well if you prefer that. It's bctoday@cbc.ca. My guest is Chelsea Birks, sessional instructor in cinema at UBC and a film author, as well as the learning and outreach coordinator at the Cinematheque Theater. Hello, welcome.
Hi, Michelle. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so happy to have you here. Do you have a position, blockbuster versus indie?
Oh my goodness. I think I'm a firm believer that you can do both.
Yes.
I work at the Cinematheque, so obviously I'm a big believer in indie and art house cinema, but I'm also a blockbuster nut. I love blockbusters for sure.
That's very reassuring because I have been to the Cinematheque many times and enjoy the art house films there. But also, yes, I do. I'm looking forward to Mission Impossible 8 or 9 or whatever.
Of course. And I can say everyone at the Cinematheque, we all also watch blockbusters. Blockbusters are great. They're a big part of movie culture, so no shame in that. I love them.
That's right. No shame in that at all. No shade. So what is it do you think that we get as fans from each of them? What do they offer us?
I mean, sometimes I go to the movies because I want to think and I want to absorb a new perspective. And art house and indie cinema does that really well. Yeah. In the summer, sometimes you have a little bit of extra time to like dig deep into something, and that can be the vibe. But honestly, blockbusters are fun, and I love having fun at the movies. Sometimes I want it to be big and loud and have great music in it and have a lot of explosions and action. Like, that's great. It's fun. And they're just as hard to make either way. Like, movies are an art, whether they're art house or big budget blockbusters.
Is there one of those big movies that sticks out for you that is a favorite?
Oh my goodness. When I was talking to your producers earlier in the week, I was like, Minority Report, because I'm a big Spielberg fan, and Spielberg is synonymous with the blockbuster film.
Sure.
All the way back to Jaws, E.T., and Minority Report was the big Steven Spielberg film for my generation. It's awesome.
It's very thinky.
Yeah, it is very thinky, but it's also action-packed.
Yes.
It's fabulous, but I also remembered that I saw Pirates of the Caribbean, the first one, 9 times in theaters when it came out.
9 times?
9 times. Yeah. That summer, 2003, I apparently didn't have enough to do. Shout out to my friend Liz. She came with me to every single one. We memorized it, I think. We loved it. Yep.
I just remember seeing that for the first time, and I mean, just being in awe of Johnny Depp's performance in it, but Keira Knightley, whom I knew from Beckham. What makes you go to a movie 9 times?
I was 15, and that's the best time to go to movies is when you're a teenager in the summer. And like I would go see everything. So any summer between the early to mid 2000s, I saw every single summer movie in cinemas for sure. But that one really grabbed our attention. Yeah.
That's and what about like more recently? Is there a blockbuster film that is a favorite for you?
Yeah, I was on board with Barbenheimer for sure. I got
Yes.
really into that. I saw Barbie a few times. I saw Oppenheimer on 70 millimeter at the park, and I was totally blown away. It was really fun. Everybody dressing in pink. That was great. It was super fantastic.
Kind of an event, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And so what about independent films though? Because there's you want to support them as well and ensure that they have success so that people can keep making these movies. And what are some that stand out?
Totally. Yeah, I mean, because I work at a repertory theater, I think a lot of like local films that might not be super recent. So like going to your local art house cinema and supporting their programming is a good way of ensuring that local filmmakers like stay relevant. So it doesn't always have to be a new release, but then you find out about new releases and get interested.
Right.
Yeah, I know there's a film called Anidia that's going to play soon by an SFU filmmaker, and I think it's got some summer vibes. It's about like a creepy cult camp. Yeah, it's a little arty. It's local, Canadian film, definitely worth supporting.
That's intriguing.
Yeah,
it's great. Sounds intriguing to me. Okay, we are just chatting about movies. So what are your favorite kinds of movies? Do you prefer blockbusters over indie films, or do you like both? Yeah, there's a time and a place for each one. So let us know what are your favorites and what actually gets you to the theater, and tell us about that theater experience. What contributes to a really good movie theater experience? 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733, or you can hit pound 690 on your cell phone. Cody is joining us from Trail. Hi, Cody.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Michelle, and good afternoon, Chelsea.
Hello
How are
to
you
you.
guys today?
We're great.
Very well. And
I was just going to suggest, and Chelsea made the great idea. I was just going to suggest going and watching Canadian films, or watching actually. If anybody does streaming, CBC Gem has a lot of great Canadian films by filmmakers. I don't really generally go to the movie theater, Michelle, because of people talking on their cell phones while you're trying to watch the movie, and kids and the whole 9 yards, and then you end up like you get the overpriced popcorn, the pop, and the movie, and by the time you go in, you're realizing like, well, why couldn't I just pop popcorn at home? Movies are free on Netflix or CBC Gem, and just stay at home and have a night in instead of going out.
You know what? That's fair, Cody. And free on Gem for sure. Netflix, maybe
and
not so much.
And I'm more of a sports movie watcher.
Yeah.
If I watch on Netflix, I like the biopics. So like Air, Miracle, because that was filmed in Rossland.
Mm-hmm.
So that was actually when I heard about that when they came out with that movie, I was in high school, and I just about wanted to apply to become an extra in that movie.
Oh my goodness! Tell us more about that. So, Air
so
film.
They put out So what they did is they put out a call they put out a call in the local newspaper to have high school students they were looking for people that wanted to be extras in the movie.
Yeah.
And they basically turned Rossland into like Lake Placid, New York. So, and it was a hockey movie, and probably the best. It's the best movie that it's a movie that I would recommend anybody watching because it was really well done, and Kurt Russell's performance as Herb Brooks is outstanding.
Oh, what a great story, Cody. And did you apply? Did you go try an audition?
I didn't, but I was compelled to, but pretty much. But I didn't have the opportunity, and I wish I could have. But hey, I'm still famous anyways because I wrote a book, and usually everybody tells me that I should work for the CBC because I have a voice. I have a voice for radio.
You are kind of our trail correspondent, because we do have the pleasure of hearing from you every now and then from trail. Cody, pleasure to hear from you now, and thanks for sharing that with us. What a great
My
little
pleasure, Michelle, and nice to talk to you as always.
Yeah, thanks for the fun fact. Sports biopics. I think that's a great kind of genre.
I love sports movies,
Yeah.
which is funny because I'm not like a sports person, but I love sports movies. That reminded me, another Canadian recommendation is a film called The Grizzlies about a lacrosse team in Nunavut. It's amazing. It's really good.
Wow.
Yeah. So maybe if you're feeling like you want to watch something in a cold landscape because you're too hot, it's really inspiring. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I guess it's the kind of the human nature, the human story behind these sports that kind of get you more engaged, I suppose.
Totally.
Stephen is joining us now from Gibson's. Hi, Stephen.
Hi.
Thanks
How
for
are
calling.
you?
I am just fine. Good to hear from you. What are your thoughts on movies? Blockbuster versus indie?
I have to say I love them both because it's the diversity of film and each offers something the other one doesn't. So indie film,
Yes.
Quiet Echoes, a rural drama, and it's a small town librarian who discovers a cache of letters, and they uncover local history. Neon Lights, it's a romance mystery. But the one I'm really excited by is Threads of Time. It's like a time travel film where people touch a piece of vintage clothing and time travel.
No way. That sounds
Isn't
amazing.
that incredible?
What an amazing idea. Yeah.
Like every vibration of vintage clothing, I feel it. And I can tell whether it's positive or a negative person that owned it. And that's how I buy it. But I just put so much money into Jurassic Park, I cannot leave without seeing the finale. They owe me.
You're an investor, are you?
Yeah. I'm not a Mission Impossible guy because I'm old enough to remember the Mission Impossible television series.
Right.
And it was the smoothest, most sophisticated, most debonair and subtle spy thriller TV series.
That's
Martin Landau.
That's very true. That's very true. It's hard to kind of try and replicate that. I will say the first Mission Impossible I thought was that same sort of very smooth and mysterious, a lot of smoky alleyways or smoky cobblestone streets in Europe, that kind of thing. Stephen, what a pleasure to hear from you. I love those suggestions. They're fantastic.
Thank you. And there's another one too. I haven't read enough about it. Something old, something new.
Something old and something new. Okay, we'll look that up.
Yeah, and there's 3 big stars in it, so I think it's kind of a rom-com.
Okay. I love a summer rom-com.
You're speaking my language.
Oh, yeah. I'm still hung up on the 15th time I've seen Love, Eat, and Pray.
Oh, wow. Yes. You are just all for all film, it sounds like. Hey, Stephen?
Well, I have so much time on my hands. It's worth having 322 DVDs.
Fantastic.
You know what? We love it. Stephen, thank you very much. Great to chat with you in Gibson's. We are open and we are not judging and not at all going to be denigrating people who like blockbuster films. There is someone, though, on my team who is a little tired of the sequels. So our show director, Ali Pitargue, and I chatted yesterday about something she calls sequelitis. Take a listen. Film snob.
Hello.
Would you like some Grey Poupon?
A Grey Poupon? I'd love a Grey Poupon.
Because, okay, so why be snobby about these remakes?
Look, let me preface a couple of things. I do own the title of being a snob, but it's not very nice to look down on people who enjoy some good blockbuster slop every now and then. Life is hard. You want to escape somewhere where you have to suspend disbelief. By all means, be my guest. But I, for one, just personally am very reluctant to watch movies that are very much obvious cash grabs. Albeit it doesn't necessarily speak to the quality of the film. They could very much be, very good sequels, but at the same time, yeah, as in once there's a number in the title of the movie, my brain just turns off.
It's once you say, okay, I have to say I am heading out to see Mission Impossible, the new Mission Impossible, and it's a good time.
It's a good romp.
It's a rockin' time. So yeah, no shade to people who enjoy sequels, but you kind of feel that there's a sort of sequelitis that's taking over Hollywood. So why is that?
Well, when it comes to sequels, it's more about the dollars in terms of Hollywood having to take safe bets. And if you know, well, as we know, in the North American film industry, it's undergone a slew of challenges from strikes to the California wildfires. So the industry, we could say, is in rebound at this point, in rebound mode. And right now they're banking on these sequels because they have an established cultural resonance among the audience. They're safe bets to draw in box office numbers. And often a lot of these sequels are for children, for a broader audience. And that kind of strategy, it's beneficial to workers who could use the money from working in these productions. So there's that side of it. So in some cases, you don't necessarily blame the studios for sequelitis, but ultimately, it doesn't necessarily look good for the outlook of Hollywood now.
Right, for the creative part of it. So what do you think is needed then? Like what can be done to, okay, make money off the blockbusters, but to actually stir up more of that creativity?
Well, here's the thing. It's an age-old adage that Hollywood is running out of ideas, and that it's both true and untrue. It's untrue because I bet there are hundreds and thousands of screenwriters out there right now who have written a very brilliant script that just gets lost in the shuffle because Hollywood studios just don't want to bank on it, right? So, yeah, it's a matter of one, giving it a chance, and here's another aspect of it too. Like Hollywood filmmaking is also getting more and more expensive. So when you go to the theater, you look for an experience, and it's very expensive to create that experience. But maybe scale down the budget a bit, right? I'll give you an example. This is also a sequel, mind you, but one of the highest grossing movies in the summer in the past several years, I forgot which year, was Godzilla -1. The budget for that was very low.
Right.
It's around $2 million. And the thing is, it's not really necessarily about how expensive a movie is in terms of it translating to success.
Yeah.
But it's more about the story that resonates with the audience. It's about word of mouth.
I could not believe I was hearing such good things about this Godzilla movie.
Yes.
Yeah, you're right. And for that kind of budget as well. Okay, I also will say we're looking at Wicked for Good coming out later on this year, but I'm a little excited about that, I have to say.
I am too.
They did give us a nice cliffhanger at the end.
Yeah, but that is a bit of an exception because it is part 2 of an already standalone narrative.
Yeah, we could go down this rabbit hole.
We could.
Further and further, Allie. But yeah, I take your point about sequels. Just try and take a chance on stuff that's more creative. Never to miss a chance to nerd out on a movie. That is our studio director, Ali Pitargue. So, Chelsea, where do you stand on sequels?
Oh my gosh, I was nodding along to every second of that discussion. I will watch a sequel. I feel like I'm less inclined to watch one of the reboots. I feel like we're getting so many reboots, live action reboots, How to Train Your Dragon, Lilo and Stitch, and like the magic of the original movies, you replicate it, okay. To me, that's even less creative than a sequel. And some of them are good. I've seen them. That's okay. But I wish we got more original stuff. And Hollywood seems to have learned the wrong lesson from Barbenheimer, which was 2 quite original films. And obviously Barbie is a cash grab. It's based on a toy, but it was really original. And like, I think audiences were thirsty for that, and that's part of the reason for the success of that moment. But all of the economic conditions that Ali mentioned, like that's really real. Hollywood is not taking risks. We don't get a lot of mid-budget films. There's like $2 million, and then there's $300 million.
Right.
There's nothing in the middle.
In between.
Yeah, which is wild. Like it used to be when I was growing up, like all the summer blockbusters, or not blockbusters, there were tons of summer movies that were like $30 million, which is a lot of money, but it's not $300 million. And that's like a real sweet spot for creativity.
You know, I remember in the summer going once to see, I can't remember what movie it was, but it was some big, like highly advertised movie. my friend and I ended up in the wrong theater, and we ended up watching Sliding Doors, which is just a lovely, lovely movie. One of my favorites.
Yeah, amazing.
Small movie. Hadn't heard of it until I got there, and we said to each other, "We're in the wrong movie," but I'm kind of enjoying this. So there you go. One last call from Marion in Kamloops. Hello, you wanted to recommend something, Marion?
Yeah, I just caught the tail end of your show, and you were talking about, I think, small films, and one that was my absolute favorite, and we can really use more Canada, and it's so Canadian, it's called 1 Week. And it's got cameo appearances by Gordon Downey, the Tragically Hip, Joe Plaskett, and M. Griner, who I'm not familiar with, but it's just a cool
She's a great
story,
musician.
Yeah, and anyway, they're just cameos, but it's basically a guy takes a motorcycle trip across Canada from Toronto to Vancouver in 1 week. So it's ultimately Canadian. You see all the big, the Wawa Goose and the big canoe and whatever. Like, I've done that trip myself quite a few times, like driven. So it's just a really charming, ultimate Canadian film. And if you want to really immerse yourself in Canada during these times when we're proudly Canadian, I highly recommend that one. And I'm glad the Grizzlies was recommended because that's another of my faves.
Nice.
Marion, that seems like the quintessential movie to watch this summer because everyone's talking about exploring our country.
Totally.
That sounds fantastic.
And I can't say enough, that's my bucket list. I'm luckily retired, and I have seen almost all the provinces in Canada, but I need to go to a few I've missed and explore more. And I've been wanting to do that forever, long before the 51st state and all this other.
Here, and you can get some inspiration from 1 week. Great suggestion, Marion. Enjoy your weekend. Thanks so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. You too.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
A couple of emails. Joanne writes us, the audience may or may not know that the city of Victoria could possibly lose 2 downtown movie theaters. Capital 6 will be demolished with the development of the Harris Green project, and the Heritage building that houses the Cineplex Theater on Yates Street is up for sale. We love walking downtown to the movies. Dominic writes, 100% prefer indies and foreign films. I reckon these type of cultural films, especially from other countries, should be prioritized over US-made blockbusters. Once a year, Marvel films are okay, though. That's pretty funny. Thank you, Dominic. What a pleasure to talk to you. Enjoy the movies this summer.
Thank you so much. You too, and to everyone listening, go out, see some movies, watch some Canadian films. I'm glad they got so much love on the program today.
They sure did. Or watch Pirates of the Caribbean for a 10th time. Whatever. Thanks so much. Nice to have you here.
You as well, Michelle. Thank you.
Chelsea Birks, sessional instructor in cinema at UBC, as well as a film author and the learning and outreach coordinator at the Cinematheque Theater.